Hopefully that works. Jim, if you push the button on there. No, to the right. That's it. That should work.
Hello, Bruce.
There we go.
Ni hao.
Right. You got here. You managed.
Not well, but I'm here, yes. I hope I don't fall asleep.
I'll just put your microphone comfortably there.
Hooray.
Right. So, the way I think, the best way to do this, I think, is for me to start off by asking Jim some questions, and then I think at some point we'll open it up to yourselves, because I clearly can ask as many questions as you like about it, but I think that you're all sitting here anxiously wanting to ask your own questions as well. So if there are microphones in the audience, and if not, you can just come up here and shout them. We're a smallish group and we can then be more informal. But Jim, I was trying to work out when it was that you and I first met.
Oh my God.
And I'm thinking it has to be at NYU, was it? Or?
It was in New York, and it was decades ago. They weren't even born.
It was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a long, long time ago. But you were a smart guy. I hope you still are.
No, you were the smarter guy because you did better than I did, because I'm still on this side. But you then decided to move overseas and move to Singapore. Why was that?
I moved to Singapore permanently in 2007. I moved to Singapore because I wanted my children to speak Mandarin. We tried we tried China, but China was extremely polluted. Singapore is very easy. Everything works in Singapore, and they speak Chinese, and I don't. I speak bad English. And so it was wonderful to go to Singapore. Everything works in Singapore. You know, I love New York, but nothing works. It's an exciting place to live. But Singapore, everything works.
How much of that decision, besides the wish for your children to speak Mandarin, was also driven by the recognition that you believed that this was going to be the economic future? Asia, Southeast Asia, was going to be an economic future?
Well, I figured that out long ago in the 80s. You know, I can remember coming back from China to New York, and everybody said, Japan, Japan, Japan. You remember the 80s? And I said, no, China. And they said, what? China? You're crazy. So I saw it a long time ago, and when I used to tell people on TV, you must teach your children and grandchildren Chinese. And everybody said Japanese. So I realized very early that China was doing amazing things, and then I had children, so I had to move there.
Right. And the investment strategy followed, did it?
Well, yes. I mean, I'm a simple person, so wherever I am, if I think I see good investments, I try to do something.
Is this, let's just talk about where we are at the moment. Uzbekistan, the Central Asia region, and the abilities and the opportunities that you can see here.
Well, I don't see opportunities in much of Central Asia, but I do see opportunities in Uzbekistan. I have made investments on the Uzbek stock exchange. I hope I'm smart enough to buy more Uzbek stocks. I don't have investments in Kazakhstan and some of the other stans.
Why is that?
Somebody's doing something right here. And what I see of the other stans, the other countries in this part of the world, I mean, they still remember Mr. Stalin. They still are a little too communist. They don't think quite like enterprising capitalists, in my view.
Now, let's just
maybe I just want to say maybe I'm wrong, but that's the view that I have so far.
Right, and I think it's important at this point to emphasize that you are an enterprising capitalist, in the sense that you may have found a preference for China as an economic vehicle, but you're rooted in your values still firmly in capitalism.
Oh, yes, I want to be rich.
You are rich.
I want to be a rich capitalist, yes, yes, yes. I'd like to be a rich Asian capitalist. No, I certainly still have figured out, I've been around the world a few times, as some of you know, I have figured out that capitalism, for all of its flaws, is better than anything else. And so, if a country's capitalist with smart people, it's very important to have smart people and the right system, and in my view, Uzbekistan does. I hope I'm right. I have made investments in the Uzbek Stock Exchange. I plan to buy more. Let's hope I'm right. But that's not true of many other countries in the world. It does seem to be true here.
Is it because I often wonder, when I travel to some of these other countries, they sort of want the benefits that go with it without the hard work that capitalism requires? And what do I mean by that? You know, shareholders have to have rights. Shareholders have to own the company. Shareholders have to be able to kick everybody. You know what I'm saying. There has to be a proper form here.
That sounds like America. That everybody wants it easy. You haven't been to America in a while. No, I don't know if Uzbekistan is getting it right. I know that, they threw the communists out long ago, and not a lot happened for a while. But now, in my view, from what I can see, somebody understands how it's got to work. You've got to have smart, energetic, honest people doing things to make money. I don't know, Richard, you probably know better than I do, but from what I have seen so far, Uzbekistan is one of the few places that understands. I have some investments in Russia, but Uzbekistan seems better.
On that question of, do you worry with your investments on geopolitical risk?
I worry about everything. What are you talking about? No, of course, you have to worry about geopolitical risk, whether it's the United States or Uzbekistan. That is a very deep worry, and the part of the problem is that politicians always want the easy way. They want an easy life. I do too. They always want to make things easy for them and their friends. So you have to worry. You have to worry about geopolitical, because who knows? In America we have a president now named Donald Trump. Who knows what Mr. Trump doesn't know what he wants. Mr. Trump will wake up and watch CNN and then decide what to do.
I think that's what
he saw.
I think there's a sort of version of that does happen on a daily basis.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but that's not just America. That sort of thing happens in many countries. I've been investing around the world for a few decades. You have to be very careful, and you have to be very worried. So be worried.
I'm always worried.
Good.
But then if I was always, let's take China for it. And we will deal with the US specifically in a few moments. If we're talking, let's say China, the imbalances in the Chinese economy now are of such a proportion that one would suggest that's worrisome.
Richard, I'm older than you, and I've been around longer than you. It's always worrisome. You have to worry about. In the United States, I'll use that as an example. In the United States, people become politicians because they can't get a real job. So they go to work for the government. They want the easy way. I want the easy way too. You have to understand that about politicians in every country. And so it's a serious problem if you are an investor, because they can change things instantly. Instantly. Now, from what I have seen of Uzbekistan, they understand that people like me need a stable, serious, constant outlook. We don't want things to change every 2 weeks. We want to know what's going to happen, more or less what's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. Now, we should ask Richard, because he's on TV. But from what I know so far, Uzbekistan, more than most of the former Soviet countries, they understand that.
And yet at the same time, the country is caught between Russia and China.
Yes. No, there's nothing we can do about that. But that might be good, because you have two really big, prosperous, successful, we hope, successful nations. And that could be very good. You know, Uzbekistan at one time, there was a guy named, the leader of Tamerlane, he was called. He conquered most of the world.
He did.
But they were very successful for some reason. So this country, I hope, has the gene pool, they have the DNA in them somewhere, that they know how it's supposed to work, and they know what to do. I don't know. I have been buying shares for a few weeks. We will see if I know what I'm doing.
What areas are you liking the look of?
Well, Richard,
in other words,
it's not as though there are hundreds of shares. There are only a few shares, so I don't have too much choice.
Right, but I guess, are there particular sectors of the Uzbek investment portfolio?
For me, it's whatever's public. There are not 500 companies that I can take a choice of. I have to get out the list of what's public and what's big.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have something big enough to invest in, and I'm still learning my way. I wish I had grown up knowing all about Uzbekistan. I am learning as I go. I only have a few. I have bought first the big stocks, the liquid stocks, because those are the major powerhouses in any country. And by the way, that's usually the way I do it. When I go to a country, I usually buy the big stocks first, because I know that when Fidelity or J.P. Morgan comes to the country, they're going to buy the big stocks. That's all they know.
You're long-term, aren't you?
I hope. I hope that my children someday have my Uzbek stocks. I don't like to sell. I'm lazy. And if you sell, you have to make decisions, you have to take actions. I like to buy something that I can own forever, or that my children can own forever. I hope that that's smart.
You're quoted as saying you sold the U.S., your U.S. holdings.
I have sold all of my shares in the United States. I am an American citizen. My family is American. But we have sold everything. I have sold everything, because the United States stock market has been going up since 2008. That's the longest in American history. Never in American history have we had such a long period of good prosperity in the stock market. Now, Donald Trump will tell you it's going to go on forever. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Well, if you believe Mr. Trump, I'm foolish to sell. But I suspect that there are going to be problems in the American stock market later this year or next. I see many things, many potential problems rising, lots of debt, lots of overenthusiasm, lots of new investors calling their friends and say, oh, the stock market is so much fun and it's easy. It's easy to make money. I've seen this movie before.
The problem is, and I'm glad we're getting to this bit, because I am that guilty person, all right? I am that guilty person that doesn't know when to sell, regrets not selling. I'm not talking about timing the top or the bottom. I'm just talking about, regrets not selling, because what do I, and let's not factor in the tax equation of reason why one wouldn't sell, but what does one do with it if you sell? You can sit in cash.
Well, Richard, I wish I knew the answer to that question. That is a question that I ask every day of my life. Knowing when to sell and what to sell is an extremely difficult problem. I wish there were an easy answer.
Because psychologists have proven that we are more upset about the money we hand back. If you buy a stock and it goes straight down from day one, there's nothing you can do about it. You never had any choice. It went down. It was a bad buy. But if you buy a stock and it goes up and it comes down and you didn't sell at the top, I'll talk irrationally upset more than about the one that collapsed.
Why don't you write a book and tell us how to do it?
No, because I can't do it. I can't sell water in the desert.
No, I understand. Don't you understand? There are millions of investors around the world, and we all have exactly that problem.
But you're more successful at navigating it.
So sometimes I get it right, yes. You want to hear about my mistakes?
Oh, yes.
You want to hear about my first wife? Oh my God, what a horrible mistake she was. Oh.
She speaks well of you.
I have made many mistakes in my life. I hope I live long enough to make many more mistakes. I hope I have a lot of mistakes ahead of me, because I try to learn from my mistakes. But I mean, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to be finished. But knowing when to buy is very difficult. But when to sell is even more difficult. You're right. It's an extremely difficult problem for everybody.
The moment, the US is at an extremely difficult time, because the one thing, I mean, let's ignore the somewhat offensive phrase, the taco, Trump always chickens out. The moment I saw the tariffs coming on, and the market collapsed, I also realized that the president had exactly the capacity to send the market back up again, which of course is what happened, simply by reversing the policy. But the long-term effect of it is very difficult to understand, isn't it?
It is? Well, yes, in my lifetime, it's been wise to own American shares, to own many countries' shares, and I have owned American shares. But that doesn't mean I don't have the problem, okay, I bought this company, now when do I sell it? It doesn't matter which country.
But are you pessimistic about the future of the US economy?
The next time we have a bear market in America, it's going to be the worst in my lifetime. And I'm older than you, so it's going to be the worst.
Not that much.
Well, it's going to be the worst in your lifetime, too. It's going to be the worst in all of your lifetime, because the debt in the U.S. has gone up so much. I mean, it is mind-boggling. If you actually get out the numbers and look at the numbers in the United States, you would say, this must be a mistake. This cannot be. But Richard, the numbers are unbelievable, the way the debt has built up, just in the last year alone. Throughout history, when countries have gotten themselves into this kind of shape, it has always ended badly. always ended badly. I can remember when the British went, 100 years ago, Britain was the richest, most powerful country in the world. There was no number two. 50 years later, Britain was bankrupt. Oh, thank you. 50 years later, Britain was bankrupt. It went from number one to completely bankrupt. They couldn't pay their bills. IMF had to bail them out. That happened in 50 years. The United States is now the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. And Mr. Trump will tell you it's going to last forever. I've read enough history to know that it never has lasted forever.
The concept of the US defaulting on its debt, the Treasury Secretary says it will never happen. I think Donald Trump got frightened himself when he made some comments once and actually suddenly found exactly what a calamity it would. Do you accept that I mean, we all agree it would be a calamity. Could you see a scenario where the US defaults?
Of course I do. I can add. And I have read enough history. I remember when the British, I don't know if any of you remember that, but when the British dominated the world 100 years ago, they were the richest, most powerful country in the world. It was inconceivable. If you took a trip, you took a pound note with you, a 5-pound note, because that was good everywhere. And they always paid their bills. It was inconceivable that Britain would go broke. It did. And right now, in the world, it is inconceivable that America will ever go broke. And I want you to know America will go broke. I hope not in my lifetime, but certainly in my children's lifetime. The debts are just astonishing. If you get out the numbers and just look at them, you'll say, oh my God, what will they do? Let me say, Richard, it's going to happen. Now, it's good for you. It's very good for you. You'll have to report it. The world needs you to tell us what's happening.
Right. All right. So, as an investor that you are, you have to navigate that sort of big picture. And the big picture, and I think I probably agree with you that at some point it will happen. But you also have to invest, because you need a pension, or I need a pension, and I do need to actually have investment that's going to keep me and my husband in our old age for many years to come. How do I square that circle so that I invest and have a return, but I'm not so naked that I'm going to, or I'm not, you know what I'm asking here, Jim?
My first answer to you is, you're not the only person who has this problem.
I don't care about the rest of you.
I know you don't. None of us do.
Exactly.
But let me say to you that I have this problem every day. I've sold all of my American investments. Now, the next question is, what do you do with the money? You got to put the money somewhere. And at the moment, I have not found a new competitor to the U.S. I own some shares in Uzbekistan. I own some shares in China. I own some shares in a few places. But I don't know. I have not found, for one of the few times in my life, I have not found the new competitor to the U.S. If any of you know, do not tell him. Come up and hand me a note. Give me a note, because I'm looking, and it's very difficult now in 2025. Who is going to be the rising star, or even the rising competitor? Yes, I have shares in Uzbekistan. I have shares in China. I have shares a few places. But it's extremely hard now. Many stock markets around the world have all gone up in the last few years. It's one of the few times in world history that nearly all stock markets have done well. You look out the window, they're all doing well. That, in my lifetime, when everybody is happy, you should be worried. Maybe I'm wrong. Hope I'm wrong. But when I look out the window, I see everybody's very happy, and that, I don't know what to do.
Right. In that scenario, so you go, one does what one can to protect yourself, essentially, over the short and the medium term. We can never plan for the completely exogenous event. You know, we just have to be ready for that. But what you're talking about here in terms of long-term US economic growth is not exogenous. It's foreseeable in your view, and it is not only foreseeable, we are on the track towards it.
Yes, I can add. I can subtract. I know what's going to happen. I've seen this movie.
So when you see the current budget bill going through Congress, and you see that, I mean, the thing that I find really difficult about it is the CBO has put a number, 3.6 trillion or whatever, increasing of the debt. The administration says it's not going to increase the debt. None of us believe that, because it's never happened when it doesn't happen. But this dichotomy between the truth and or the reality and the promise is so great that one doesn't know what to do.
Maybe we should watch him on TV.
I hope you are.
He doesn't know either, though. I know that. Let me say to you again, throughout history, there's always been a number one or number two country, a couple of countries on top. They were very rich, and the world used them as the standard. That is the United States today. But if you go back, every one of those countries has eventually run into problems. Every one of them. You remember Margaret Thatcher? You remember pound sterling? There was a time when you could not go anywhere without the pound sterling. That's the status of the US dollar today. That has always changed. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to say, oh, he's crazy. America cannot have a problem. But everybody has had a problem eventually, because people get overexcited, they get lazy, and they just like to spend money. And if you don't have money, you borrow money.
It's the timing of it, isn't it?
Well, I'm telling you my timing, and I'm not good at timing. I don't want you to think I know what I'm doing. I often sell too soon. I have sold nearly every country in the world. I still own shares in Uzbekistan. I still own shares in China, but nowhere else, because I see problems coming. And since the problems in the US will be huge, that means the problems everywhere will be huge. I don't like saying this. I'm an American citizen. I have American family. But I have to face reality.
Why, if we look at the Chinese issues, the debt that's in the system, the land problems, the ability of the Chinese administration to, I guess the elegant way would be to take the air out of the balloon, to release the pressure cooker without it going off. Why are you confident that they can do it in China?
I'm not confident about anything. I'm always full of self-debt, but I do know a few basic facts about China, and I also know that China is the only country in history that's been on top 3 or 4 times. No other country's been on top. I mean, Rome was great once, Egypt was great once, Britain was great once. China's been great 3 or 4 times. China's also collapsed, totally, disaster. 3 or 4 times, including again recently. But for whatever reason, somehow the Chinese, after a few years, have turned around and risen to the top again. Whether it's the mothers or the parent, I don't know what it is, but I know they've always done it. And in my assessment, they're doing it again. I make many mistakes, but in my assessment, I do not see another country in 2026, 2027 that's rising to the top again. If any of you know, please do not tell him. Come over and write me a note.
No,
I'm looking for that
Ignore the old man on the left. Come to the old man on the right. Let me ask you, how do you spend your day? Give us an idea. Because many of us think, you know, give me an idea of the average day in Jim Rogers' life.
Well, I get up and I read the newspapers. And I have to know what's going on. And then I try to, I try to exercise. I have learned that I need to stay fit if I can. So I try to exercise every day. And I read the markets and I look at the markets. Do I act? A lot of times I do nothing. I just sit there and I'm lazy. Listen, I'm very, very lazy. I like being lazy. It's good. But I do know that I have to see what's going on. But one of the things that I have learned that many people don't do, I look at markets around the world. I've invested in Uzbekistan. I invested in Uzbekistan a few weeks ago because I think I see enormous changes taking place. Now, throughout my life, I have invested in what some people think are strange places. But whenever I see something changing, if I can find a country that's cheap and changing, cheap and change, I will invest. I don't care where it is. When I told people about Uzbekistan, they said, what the hell is Uzbekistan? I tell them about Tamerlane. You remember Tamerlane?
Sorry? Yes, of course, yes.
I will just tell you a story, a quick story.
Please.
Because it's an interesting story. When Tamerlane died, since he conquered the world, they buried him in Uzbekistan, and the sign said, here lies Tamerlane. If anybody disturbs this tomb, it will bring great chaos to the world. So Tamerlane's lying there for a long time. As you know, the Soviets eventually took over Uzbekistan. 1941, the Uzbek archaeologists, the Soviet archaeologists, went into Tamerlane's tomb to see what it was. That is the day Hitler invaded Russia. So Tamerlane was right. He told them, he warned them, Hitler invaded Russia the day that they opened Tamerlane's tomb. So if you go to see Tamerlane's tomb, be very careful.
Let's take a question. Do we have a microphone? Do we have a hand mic?
Do you have the answer too, I hope?
Do we have a hand mic? No.
I have a mic.
No. Let me see if there's a mic. There we go. Stay where you are, Jim. Right. There we go. Does this work? Oh, yes, it does. Well done. Hello, ma'am. Here we go.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Numita Dhar. I'm from Singapore, Sun Media Singapore. Welcome to Uzbekistan.
Wait, you're from Singapore?
Yes, I'm from Singapore.
So am I.
You have to go all the way down.
My question to you is, you are here for Tashkent International Investment Forum. What is your advice to Singapore investors? What do you see on the ground? I did hear what you are positive about it, but individual and collective investors of Singapore, what do you have for them? Thank you.
Well,
why are Singapore investors any different to anybody else?
Because they think and they watch and then they execute. So since we have someone from home and he's on ground, so maybe he has some tips for them.
Well, my answer is the same as Richard's. Singapore investors are no different from the rest of us. You have to stay with what you know. Don't listen to people on TV. Don't listen to hot tips. When you go to the bar, don't listen to the hot tips. They'll give you lots of hot tips. Do not listen. Invest in only what you yourself know a lot about, and you will be a successful investor. Now, many people say, oh, but that's boring. Be boring. If you want to be a successful investor, be boring. Do not worry about being boring.
You invested in Uzbekistan now, so perhaps it's a good time because you are a very seasoned investor.
See, do not listen to other people.
How do you know he's not tipping a stock? Exactly.
Well, I will tell you, because it's a small country and it's a new country, they're just opening this all up again. I have started investing in the big prominent companies.
Right.
Because I know that when J.P. Morgan comes to Uzbekistan, they're going to buy the big stocks. They're not going to buy the local whiskey company. They're going to buy the big stocks that everybody knows.
Right.
And so that's where I always start.
We're over here now. Yes.
Yes, it's great to see you again here. I am Sanjay Kumar from the Korea Herald newspaper, and recently we saw you in Korea also. My question is, my question is about like how countries like Uzbekistan and Korea can collaborate to bring good results, and do you have any suggestions on that?
Korea and Uzbekistan collaboration.
Well, that's an interesting combination. I presume you mean South Korea. I guess you have not been to North Korea. I know it's illegal, but I urge you to think about going to North Korea. Because I have been to North Korea twice, for what it's worth. I know that North Korea is going to change, and when it changes, it's going to be very exciting. It's very cheap, very cheap. But in the meantime, South Korea and Uzbekistan both are countries that have smart people, educated companies, and they are both, especially Uzbekistan, are starting to expand to the outside world. Both of these countries, South Korea and Uzbekistan, have histories of engaging successfully with the rest of the world. So you need to find the companies. I mean, there are lots of big companies in Uzbekistan, smart people. So you need to find the smart people who are going to engage with the outside world and be successful. And if you do enough research, you buy the shares. And then you send me an email, please, when you find them. I have been I bought 5 or 6 or 7 companies in Uzbekistan, but I start by buying the big prominent companies because I don't know enough yet.
Jim, it's Michael from Singapore. Question for you, please. Since you invest globally, and also this is a sizable country, but there's a story of interest rates and the equity market. Uzbekistan rates are over 20%, but if you have like a longer term view, if rates come down, the equity market potentially should do very well. Like for example, like in Brazil or Vietnam, when rates were very high, but over the years the interest rates came down and the equity market was growing, right? So the story about interest rates and the equity market in a frontier market like this.
The question is, I don't know if you could hear, the relationship between frontier economies with high interest rates, where interest rates start to come down, equity markets benefit as a result. That's the gist of it.
Well,
and here you have a 20% rate, which is on its way down.
You have described the conditions for making an investment in a new market. Yes.
Yes, right.
Alain Unke from the International Finance Corporation. Thanks so much, Jim, for your words of wisdom. Just one question regarding your appetite for taking risk in a country which is still largely public sector dominated. What gives you more confidence in investing in Uzbekistan in that light?
So the question, did you hear? The question is, in an economy which is largely public sector dominated, what attributes, what is it that gives you the confidence of investing?
I don't know what I'm doing. I make mistakes. No.
What do you look for?
The thing that I look for is a government which wants people to get rich. If the country has a government which encourages success, I mean, I will tell you, India, you all know about India. What a country, what a great country. But, you know, Nehru and Gandhi and all those people, they talked about success, and they said they would, but they didn't mean it. They didn't like rich people. The new government in India likes rich people and wants people to be rich. So for the first time in my investing life, I have started investing in India because I think I see at the top a support for success and prosperity. So that's the main thing. First, you have to make sure the government is going to be supportive because many governments will take it away from you. If you get rich, they say, give it to me. I think that India has changed now. So that is a very, very important thing for me to look for. Uzbekistan, you know, I used to be the communists. They wanted everything. But from what I can gather, Uzbekistan now wants people to be successful and wants people to be rich and will encourage it and help it. I may be wrong. I make many mistakes. But it seems that's one of the reasons that I have started investing in Uzbekistan. They have a lot of natural resources. They have industry. They have everything. If the right people are running the country. And it seems to me that for the first time in my lifetime, Uzbekistan has the right attitude. So that's why I'm investing here.
Okay.
But don't worry, I make a lot of mistakes. Yes, sir.
Mr. Rogers, my name is Donyar Islamov. I'm currently setting up investment fund in real estate in Uzbekistan. So what would you advise me in terms of investment strategy? Of course, you are mostly equity investor, but anyway.
Well, I mean, I will say to you, you have to invest in what you know a lot about. Don't listen to me. But if you see a company or a real estate, especially real estate, this country has a lot of real estate. If you find what you know is going to be successful for whatever reason, either because of agriculture or because of tourism or whatever, you're going to be very successful.
Do you like property investments, real property, land, houses, apartments?
I mainly prefer stock markets because I think I can sell. And
Right.
I like
The
to
liquidity.
I think that I can sell. Property you cannot always sell.
And as between equity and fixed income?
Well, yes, I like something I think I can sell. If it's listed on the stock exchange,
Right.
I think I can sell.
Thank you. Do you still think the dollar is the last haven, that it is it is officially the reserve currency, but do you see a realistic challenge to dollar hegemony from anywhere?
I have been around a long time, and I can see that the U.S. dollar is on its last legs. I don't like saying this. I'm an American. I have an American family. But I can see, if you look at the debt in America, you will not believe it could be so high. And it's going higher every day. Now, I've read enough history to know that every country that has gotten into this situation has had huge problems. And in Washington, they say, don't worry, we're America, we're okay. Britain said that once too. Everybody says that once. And I, even though I'm an American, am extremely worried that it's going to happen in my lifetime.
My name is Batir. I'm from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. A very simple question. What kind of return do you expect from your investments in Uzbekistan?
Good question.
I know it's a good question. It's a common question.
Well, what do you consider, before we get to that, what do you consider an acceptable rate of return and a good rate of return?
I expect a high rate of return. I don't have a simple answer. I wish I did. I don't have a TV show. He has a TV show. He has to ask this question. You know, I want to make more than I can make in the bank. I want to make more than I can make in the normal course of business. 20 or 30% would be a threshold. I certainly want to expect to make at least 20 or 30%. And in a place like Uzbekistan that's opening up, and if I'm right, has a lot of great assets, I expect to make 40 or 50 or who knows, huge percent. When you invest in some place like Uzbekistan, if you're the early and you're right, you will make very, very, very high rates of return. More than you would expect anywhere. But you have to be careful and be sure you know what you're doing. But Uzbekistan, if I'm right, is going to have very, very high rates of return. You're at the right place at the right time.
Hi, I'm Anna Ilhan. I represent TMK, which is the state-owned enterprise tasked with developing the critical raw materials here in Uzbekistan. And I have a quick question. As countries are trying to find alternatives to the supply chain, what advice would you give TMK in attracting global investors into the critical raw material sector?
Well, if you want to attract me, you have to make me meet smart people who know what they're doing. Everybody knows what to say. If I go to a country, I know what they should say better than they do. They meet foreign investors, and I know what they should say, because I've heard it many times. I know it's always wrong. So you have to make sure investors know that if they come into your country, they are going to be supported for making money.
Right.
That if they're smart, honest people in your country who have a new idea, that you are going to support them, you're not going to confiscate them. Everybody loves confiscation, free money. You have to be sure you're not going to get into a country where confiscation is on their mind. And the most important thing is to find a government which understands and supports prosperity.
Right. Let me just.
But I want to emphasize.
Your microphone. Carry on.
Everybody says that. Everybody says that. I can say it better than they can. You probably can too. But you have to be sure that the people running the country know about prosperity, what it takes, and that they will support and encourage prosperity. That they're not going to just take it away, take it away, take it away.
As we come to the close, I just want to pull together the strands from your perspective. Do you see our current environment? How difficult as an investment scenario is it compared to previous times that we've lived through?
Well, in this July of 2000 or June of 2025, it's difficult because nearly all markets have gone up. There's prosperity and happy days nearly everywhere. And so everybody wants to be rich. But when everybody is happy and successful, I have learned that I have to be worried. I have to ask a lot more questions. Because, I mean, we all want to be rich. I want to be rich. But I can tell you it's not easy. And I can tell you that there are a lot of people in the world, especially in politicians, who want the easy way, and the easy way is to take it away, confiscate it.
Final question. When is enough enough?
Be greedy. Be greedy. Never enough. No, of course, I have learned that when I get greedy, or when I see people get greedy, I should be worried. I should be worried because you want that last dollar. You want that last peso.
And that's when it goes wrong.
That last peso will ruin you. That will ruin you. So be very careful. Sell, there's an expression that I remember very well, sell too soon. It is always better to sell too soon than to sell too late. So please, if you're having doubts or questions, please remember, sell too soon. It's usually better to sell too soon. So always sell too soon.
Jim, I'm very grateful. It's a wonderful treat and a pleasure to be here with you again in Uzbekistan.
Well, it's been a long time.
It has, sir. It has. Thank you very much indeed.
I met him when he was a little boy, you know.
And I still call him Professor Rogers.
He was just starting out, you know, and look at him now. Smart, successful. Hooray. Thank you,
very
thank
much.
you, thank you.
Professor Rogers.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No idea. Somebody will take this.
Sorry?
Business card.
Yeah, sure. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Teacher, I want to take selfie with you. I didn't proper for that.
Hi, thank you.